the strategy to passing the interview and getting to that next stage and setting the tone, it is the word thrive. THRIV.
Narrative, value, prepping, and follow through. If you can do those things, you're going to see your rate of response go up.
What's going on, everyone? We are back with another one. Y'all, a lot has happened in the last week, to be completely honest with you, in a lot of regards. Monday, I just got back into town, and one of the first calls that I had on Monday, while still on PTO, was with somebody that had 8 years of experience as a software developer and said for the last 6 months they haven't got a single call back. Got on a call Tuesday with somebody who almost a decade of experience, who has been in 10 different interviews, bombed them all, doesn't know why, and he feels like he's getting the runaround. Then Thursday happened. And on Thursday, I joined a live stream of mock interviews. And the two people that came on were both people that had experience in software development as engineers. And the interviews were not great. I know we've done an episode in the past, but today we are going to share the strategy of strategies to knocking it out of the park when it comes to software engineering interviews, from the behavioral side to get to the stage of the coding aspect. And we'll talk about the coding aspect, but primarily it's great to focus on all the algorithms and the coding assessments and this and that, which is generally interview 2, 3, etc. Yeah. But if you haven't got past interview number 1, you're not going to get to interview number 2 to showcase your skills. So we need to really, really talk about this one. But before we do, let's roll the intros. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Danny Thompson. I'm the Director of Technology at This.Labs, and I am the community organizer for the Commit Your Code conference, which as of right now has 130 speakers. Am I going to see you there? Virtual attendees are free, and tickets start at $49 with your meals covered for both days.
Ooh, it was good food too. All right, y'all. And I'm Leon Noel, Manager Director of Engineering for a wonderful nonprofit called Resilient Coders and community member at 100 Devs. And I, too, this past week had 2 individuals that were just not doing well in their interview process. And it's a common frustration that we hear where people have the experience, they are going through the motions, but they're not just getting the callbacks. They're not getting to that next stage, and they often don't know why. And I always feel kind of sad after those calls, because it's normally like a waving of the magic wand, like a boop, fix that, and then everything changes. And how much value they got out of those calls. So we're going to try and pack all that value into this episode. We're going to wave the magic wand for you so you can start getting the callbacks and start getting through these interviews, because you do just a few quick tweaks and everything can change.
Yeah. If you haven't already, this is probably going to be one of the many episodes, because I feel like we always prioritize this. But this one is the one that you bookmark, you add to your favorites, because I have a feeling for a lot of people, this is going to be one that you're going to watch more than once because of the things that we're going to be sharing. I'm going to nickname this episode Gem City, because I have a feeling that we're about to drop a lot of them, just being honest.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny because even in my Discord yesterday, people that saw the live stream, people that have a lot of experience, mind you, FANG level organizations said, this was so detail filled in a way that a lot of people don't think about. My strategy, and I know your strategy a little bit, but I don't think we've ever dived super deep into detail. So I don't know what's different and what's the same. So that would be interesting, at least for me to kind of learn from you what it is that you strategize around, like the interview process and the prep and all that good stuff. Yeah. But I turned my strategy into an acronym. And to be honest with you, that took longer than I care to admit.
Just you at the whiteboard for 3 days.
I'm like, all right. Like, this has to be catchy, y'all. This has to be. I don't like to admit how long this one took me to come up with. But the acronym that I came up with, the strategy to passing the interview and getting to that next stage and setting the tone, it is the word thrive. THRIV. I try to find a word that I use that I like, and I felt like that one
nice.
really
I like
embodied
that.
it.
Thrive is good.
Thrive. And so what does thrive stand for? I'll name it all, and we'll kind of go through it one by one and all that. But the T is targeted research. Nice. The H is honest narratives. R is results focus. The I is interactive engagement. The V is validation of alignment between you and the role. And the E is kind of a twofer. It's elevate impact and extend the dialogue.
Okay. I agree with everything on that list. I think those words sound like short, but there's so much stuff that goes into each one of those steps. And I understand why you were on the whiteboard. You were cooking. So yeah, I'm excited. That's a wonderful word. And I hope that folks stick around to hear each of those pieces be dissected, because if you can do those things, you get the job for sure.
Right, this is onion level layers here. I feel like there's going to be a lot that we unpack. I don't know if you have an acronym for your strategies or not, but do you want to kind of give a high level? Yeah.
Get on the whiteboard. So there's a couple, I guess I have like a couple phases to the interview process, and I'll come up with a fancy acronym, but there's a couple things. The first thing I have folks work through is understanding why it makes sense for you to be in an interview, right? So you are interviewing for a software engineering role. Why does it make sense that you're the candidate that they're talking to? Now, when that's entry level folks, that's building your narrative. Maybe you're in a different industry, a different career. How does that experience tie into you showing up to be an engineer at Starbucks? I like any company you could pick, right? And so you have to be able to mold that background into something that's like, oh, I get why you're showing up. I get where the passion's coming. I get where that like interest is coming from. Most people really suck at that. Like, I can't tell you how many people I sit down with and they can't craft an actual narrative around why the person should even talk to them. They can't craft a narrative around why they're the good candidate. And especially in this market, no one's going to do that heavy lifting for you. You got to serve yourself on a platter to these individuals that have 1,000+ applications per role. And if you're not thinking about that, if you're not making it easy for them to say yes and move you to the next round, it's not going to happen. So the first thing I often work with folks on is narrative. The second thing that you want to be working on is how are you giving that social proof that you are the things that are in that narrative. And so that can be a lot of work that we can dig into. But there's a lot of things that go into like, all right, you say you're this thing, but what proves you're that thing? And there are some shortcuts to that. Getting referrals kind of help shortcut that because people believe the referral and they can vouch for you having those things. And so if you have a good narrative, you have the social proof of that narrative, and then we go into preparation for the interview. We like to prepare our behavioral questions. We like to prepare our technical questions. I do have an acronym for you to get through technical questions, which is PREP, parameter returns, example, pseudocode. That's how I approach coding challenges where you talk through your stuff high level, but we'll get into the nitty gritty on that. And then it's all about follow through, right? So even if so many people lose and fumble the bag when they've had a good interview, but they don't send the thank you, or they don't follow up with the recruiter. They think the recruiter hasn't reached back out to them in 4 days, so it's all lost. No, people get busy. And so those are kind of things I think about: narrative, value, prepping, and follow through. If you can do those things, you're going to see your rate of response go up. And there's a lot of nuance to each of those pieces that I guess as they tie into your Thrive framework, we can dissect.
He already spent time at the whiteboard with prep. I know that, right? But yeah. I'll say that there's a lot that you said that I completely agree with. The referral is a big factor, right? And so we're going to do this episode with the premise that the referral worked out. resume worked out, whatever it is, and you walked in, you got in the room already, right? Like this is where we're going, because that's a whole nother thing.
Whole other topic.
That's a whole different tangent. I feel like we've covered it already, if I'm not mistaken. But with that being said, let's targeted research. Let's go down to this. For me, if I'm going for a role, or if I'm advising somebody to go for a role, there's a couple of things that you should be doing. Number one, you should immediately go for the lowest hanging fruit possible. Go on their actual website.
Yes, please.
It's such a wild thing that I have to say this to people, but go on their actual website and just look at the product, look at the service, look at the company, go to their about page. I can't begin to tell you how many people I've asked this to, and they're like, well, I looked at the recruiter's LinkedIn or something. It's like, that's cool. What about the actual company? Because the recruiter's going to ask you about it.
And I want to be super, super clear. Companies expect this. If you are not doing this, you are so far behind. It's incomprehensible. It's just they put on their website, here's how the interview is going to go. Here are our values. We want you to say these things during the interview. And if you don't do this, we know that you weren't serious about this role and you have no chance. Like they expect, like in this day and age, it is expected that you do this. And if you do not, you are behind.
It's kind of wild. And one example of this, in my very first job that I ended up accepting the offer for, was for a company called Front Door. And one of their tenets and values at that time, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the verbiage was around like, they were like a home insurance kind of company. And they said, be an owner, come in every day with that mindset of being an owner. And it was like obviously a play on words for like homeowners and stuff, but it's like really own your things. And when I said that in an interview, like they lit up. And I'm telling you, this is the lowest hanging fruit of actually going to the company's website. The second thing you should immediately be doing is going to their social media pages, especially their LinkedIn page. This is the information they want the public to know. Why wouldn't you be using that to your advantage? Why wouldn't you be discussing it, talking about it, seeing if it's even something that you align with? I know for a lot of people, they're like, I just need a job. And I get that. But the reality is, I'm going to be married to this company in some way, shape, or form, right? And the idea, if you really think about it, is you're working 40 hours a week on average, let's say, right? That's roughly, after 52 weeks, what is that? 2,080 hours a year, give or take. If you're there for 3 years, that's 6,000 plus hours that I'm dedicating of my life to this place. I don't want to be miserable there. And I don't want them to get the lowest possible version of me because I'm miserable there, because both sides are going to be upset about it. Do your due diligence yourself to find out that you actually want to be there. It can't just be there's a paycheck with my name on it. It has to be more, because you get a paycheck anywhere. Why not get a paycheck where you're actually going to be happy? And so this strategy of the targeted research is really going to kick in for that. I would also try and do things like one thing that I've often advocated for. I know there's a couple of career coaches already that have stole this advice, unfortunately. But I often reach out to ex-employees. They have no biases tied to that company anymore. They're going to let me know very early on, you should avoid this place like the plague. Oh, it was actually great. I found something better. Or it was great and I just didn't perform. Whatever it may be. But they may even give you insight like, oh, this team is really good. You should probably try and go for that team. And really like set you up for success. Yeah. I can tell you right now, actually, the total number of times an ex-employee has turned me down for this, and it's 0. It's literally never happened to where an ex-employee was like, oh, I don't want to give you this. And this is like even at the the junior level, it was really fruitful. So getting that insight early on, I think, is really great. Of course, your wording and verbiage around it is going to play a factor into it. And of course, when you reach out and your LinkedIn's not set up, like that's not going to help you out. So like focus on that, because a well set up profile actually increases your rates of replies for DMs. So if you're not thinking about that, that's a whole nother topic, but you need to be doing that. Check out the LinkedIn series on YouTube or on LinkedIn if you need help with that. It's completely for free. I don't monetize, so go for it. So with that said, targeted research, you need to really put in there and apply it. So don't just do the research for the sake of researching. Like you need to be calculated on, is this a point that I could use? And if it is, how will I use it? That needs to be in there. Like you need to be very intentful with what you're doing.
Yeah. And from all aspects of the business too, right? Have they raised money recently? What initiatives do they care about? Do they have an engineering blog, right? Can you see the new projects that they're building, the tools that they're using? Can you pepper that into your interviews, the tools that they're using? Like you got to go that extra step. And this is such an easy extra step to take that if you don't, you're just you're shooting yourself in the foot. And so I like to check their website. I like to check their LinkedIn. I'll check fundraising databases. I used to use Crunchbase a lot to check this stuff to see if there's anything that they kind of announced that was coming up. And then I also use a lot of other sites too. So specifically, if it's a bigger company, I'll look at like Blind, the app. If it's a company that's more local, I'll definitely look at Glassdoor. And you'll find a lot of stuff on there too. I was going to say disgruntled employee, but no, like previous employees talking about things that were happening at the company. You can get a lot of that data from places like Glassdoor, even Reddit sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you can get the data point, get it, right? I mean, heck, it could be at a local cookie shop where you're talking shop and you find something out, right? Like wherever a good conversation can be had, have it. Which leads me now to H. We've done the research. We obviously know we need to be intentful with what it is that we're doing and saying and thinking about. So this is where honest narratives come in. Like you should have a couple talking points prepared at a drop of a hat.
I shouldn't just show up to the interview.
I swear, I feel like I'm saying something that people just think is far out there. But even the mock interviews were so telling because, and no shade to these people. Like it takes an immense amount of courage to get up, not just get up there and do a mock interview, but to do it in front of the public. Like that's an immense amount. So no shade to them. Nerves could be a factor. There could be a multitude of factors, right? But if you're not going in there saying, these are the things that I want to talk about, right? And I know if we talk about X, Y, Z, there's no way I'm failing this interview. But you're not steering the conversation towards it. This is what kind of made sense to me after the mock interviews, where both people gave me this feedback on the questions that I asked. Now, these questions were, in my opinion, extremely open-ended for you to kind of run with. And to be honest, I probably give more grace than the average interviewer, but it's really to see where they would go with it. And both said, your questions really didn't open the door for me to talk more about X, Y, or Z. And I said, this is really interesting to me. What would you have one of those questions to be instead? And you see them thinking, and I said, this is the problem. You're looking for me to hit the jackpot for you to ask you the very exact order and lining of questions to get to the data points that you want to get to. That doesn't always work out.
Yeah. We had a term for this. We called it the Kellyanne Conway technique. So Kellyanne Conway was for a while kind of the spokesperson for Trump. And they had a wonderful way of, no matter what the topic was, coming back to what they wanted to talk about. And so when you go into these interviews, you have your topics that you want to come back to, and it's how do you get there to bring those things back? And so we would Kellyanne Conway back to the things that we wanted to talk about. And if you don't have those things prepared, if you don't have those things that you want the interviewer to leave with, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. You want to make sure you have those things. And if you don't get the perfect layup, the perfect alley-oop to kind of do those things, you still have to drive the conversation to get those pieces said, to get those facts that you did your targeted research on into the mix of the conversation. And you can't wait for that like perfect silver platter for those things to happen.
It's interesting because I know going into an interview, like there's one question that's guaranteed every single time to be there. And that is, tell me about yourself. I always ask this. Everyone asks this, like it's the layup to set the tone, right? I've often believed the first 45 seconds can now dictate the next 45 minutes if you use it accurately and wisely. Now, going back to the mock interviews, and you can see the live stream. It's on online and all the good stuff. I'll link it in like the show notes or something. But I asked this to one person, and this is someone who has like over a year in tech. I think 2 years in tech, something like that. So still earlier in the career, but the whole time they talked about how they got a degree 10 years ago, and then they wanted to be relevant, and they went to a boot camp and this whole long process. And after they were done, they stopped, and I said, pause. And I paused the whole mock interview. And I said, and this is like the biggest advice I can give to somebody. Now that you've shared this, what are you hoping that I just learned about you?
Yeah, phenomenal advice. Yeah.
And so they kind of paused for a second, and I was like, do you want the takeaway to be that you have a degree and that you went to a coding boot camp? Yeah. And I was like, okay, what else do you want me to learn about you? They're like, well, you would ask more questions. I was like, oh, so you want me to carry it, but you don't know which direction I'm going to go in with this. And so it's like, you could have had the opportunity now, because he even gave me some questions that he would have hoped that I asked next, right? And I was like, well, you could hope that I asked that, or you could just deliver the information to that question.
Yeah.
Which would then guide me to the path that you want me to be on.
I often talk to folks about this too, where you kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer who's tired. It's a long week. It's a Friday. You're the fifth person they've interviewed today. The enthusiasm is gone. How do you get them to walk away with the things that you want them to walk away with? And you know that their attention is very limited. I have so many people that get into interviews and they go on this like 4-hour tirade about how they like found a quarter when they were 5 and that's why they're a programmer now. And that person's just checked out. They still might be there. They might still be like nodding and humming, but now they're thinking about what they're going to do tomorrow afternoon on the Saturday, you know? And so you gotta get short, sweet, to the point. What are the facts I'm leaving them with? And how does that make me the best candidate? Everything that comes out of your mouth, right, is what they're going to judge you on. Stop snitching on yourself, right? Stop doing the self-deprecating things. You got to make sure that you are putting yourself in the most positive light and then thinking about, all right, what, like you just said, so beautiful. What is the interviewer going to walk away with from the things I just said? A lot of folks will be well to do with 4 to 5 sentences and then stop talking so that the interviewer can keep going. And so it's such a good point. It's such a good point.
I agree. And to be honest, that's my strategy right there. Like, what am I going to say that's going to make, and this is the example that I gave yesterday. So I'm glad that you said this. It was, if they called you in for an interview on a scale of 1 to 10, they probably already think that you're a 6 or a 7.
Yes.
And they're trying to see, are you a 9 or a 10, or are you below that? And so when they ask you, tell me about yourself, that's your opportunity to raise that scale. If you say an answer that devalues or lowers your value as the candidate, you're not, let's say, a 4 or 5. If you now say something phenomenal, you're just back at that 6 or 7 mark. So you broke even on the 6 or 7 instead of moving up. Right? It's just like, if you can get that early win, and let's say you go to a 9, and then maybe in the interview, as the interview kind of goes, maybe there's no great moments, you drop down to an 8 or a 7, and you have one more great moment, you're back up. Yeah. You've won at that point, right? Instead of going below and then having to work your way back. So with the honest narratives aspect, you should be thinking intentfully, like, what am I going to be saying? What do I want to talk? Use STAR with business impact. So STAR, for those that aren't familiar, I don't know if it was, and maybe you can correct me, was it popularized by Amazon, or is it just a framework that they decided to use?
I mean, it definitely became popular because they were using it. Yeah.
But STAR is situation, task, action, and the result of that action, right? So I could say something, to give it an example, because I know people are going to be like, well, I don't know how to say it. It's like, well, at AutoZone, there was a campaign that took days to configure. It was a nightmare. And I wanted to make sure that we didn't have to go through this every single time we needed to do said campaign. So I felt the need, and I asked for the collaboration with my boss, my higher up, to say, hey, let me spearhead this thing. And so I devised a plan where we spearheaded and we architected a solution for this. And so I took action in implementing this with the microservices architecture that we're using on the back end. And with cross collaboration with our front end team, I had them implement something that we can integrate together to take a 8-day process down to 30 minutes. And because of this, we obviously saw a massive 80% speed increase in XYZ and la da 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 da. So there we have situation, the task, the actions, what I ended up doing, how did I end up succeeding, and what do we and the best part about this is obviously like a 10-second version of this, right?
Yeah.
But I would talk about technical achievements, la da 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 da. I'd have so much in there that they could develop 10, 20, 30 different questions off of that value alone. Now, I am all about injecting my personality. Now, everyone's personality is different. You don't need to be someone that you're not, but I would probably make a light joke. I would talk about how it was such a nightmare. It was costing us so much time. And anytime we would touch something, something would break. And so everybody was nervous to touch it. And I was like, there has to be a better way. And so by devising XYZ, we ended up creating that better way. And the business was happy and everybody was in sunshine and rainbows and picnics in the park, something of that nature. But that's me. Or I would kind of add in the pain of what was being felt to then kind of showcase how everything evolved into a really great pain alleviating solution.
Yeah. And the important thing here is like Danny talks good, right? You might not talk good, which means you prepare these things. You should have these questions thought out. You don't want to be like a lot of this stuff. Yes, you want to be reactive in an interview, but good candidates have thought through a couple of these examples in that format so that they have things to talk about. Now, do you always get the perfect match? No, but you can often pull pieces to get a constructed answer. So at 100 devs, we do something a little bit fancier called CAR. We drop the S. And we do cause, action, result, because it's just a little bit easier to remember. And so cause, action, result, and we have about 20 plus questions where we memorize that cause, action, result, so that when we are in an interview and we get something that's close, we're not like, and that panic mode sets in. We know what we've been here before. We answer that. And so, yeah, you just think through your experience. What happened? The cause. I pushed production on Friday because our largest client asked for something that they needed. What action did you take? Well, prod broke. Me and my team rallied the whole weekend. We worked really hard. We got everything back up. Customers were happy. And then result. Why are you the hottest thing since sliced bread? Because of the actions you took. Since then, we implemented better procedures for our engineering team so that they no longer push the prod on the weekends. And we've had a 99.999% uptime since then, which is the leading in our industry. Right? Like cause, action, result. What happened? What actions you take? And then the most important part, why are you a phenomenal candidate because of those actions? And this is your chance to gas yourself up, show that you can deliver value, show that you can deliver impact, and you cannot have any humbleness with this. You really need to like lay out the facts. Like, why are you great? Why are you good? Why can you take the issues you had in the past to solve things and then use those same techniques to solve things at the company that you're applying to right now?
I think that works perfectly. I like that acronym too. And yeah, like just think intentfully for what those talking points are and work your way towards them. So if you don't get the perfect question that sets it up, work your way to that question through whatever answer it is and connect them. So then the R of thrive. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, I think some people really struggle with all of this because they wait until they're in their interview to do bad. Do bad on your own time, right? Practice on your own time. Do mocks. Record yourself. It's the biggest thing you can do. Like, record yourself. Talk in front of the mirror. Like, get through your reps so that by the time you're in actual interviews, you have the real things to talk about. Don't wait for a divine intervention in your fourth interview for good things to happen. No, take control of this process. Answer those questions. Come up with a good idea so that when you're in an interview, you have things to pull from.
So the R, results focused. I constantly say you have to focus on results because one big thing here is if you say I increased something or it was more efficient or more increase, enhance, these words mean you know it was at one state and now you know it's at another state because that's how you were able to tell that it was enhanced, increased, etc. For some reason, this just seems mind-blowing to people. I don't know why, but even if it's on your resume or you say it, my immediate reaction is, how do you know that you enhanced it?
Yeah.
What do you know? What did you enhance it by? Is it 1%? Is it 0.5%? Is it 30%? Should I be wowed or should I be, oh, okay. Like, you need to give me what that number is, because metrics make it real. Everything else is just vague, and it could just be buzzwords. It could be reality. I don't know. You need to use metrics. So when you're giving your CAR or STAR or whatever acronym you decide to use, make sure that there's some kind of metric somewhere that quantifies something, so that way it's specific, it's real, they could dig down deep.
Yeah.
But also make sure whatever you're talking about, it's the thing that you want to talk about. And so with that results focus, it's like, if I know I worked on the deal sales funnel at AutoZone, they could ask me 10,000 questions about it. I'm knocking it out of the park. I want to talk about that thing. And so it's like, if you're divulging that information, make sure you're ready and prepared to talk about it.
Yeah. And I always have to be very, very careful with this advice. I'm never advocating you to lie during an interview. You do not
Correct.
have to lie during an interview. There's always ways to craft things that don't require you to do that. But for a lot of folks, you might not have the exact number. Estimates are okay, right? Like, close to the number is okay. The value, like, if you can get the exact number, is wonderful. But if you don't, in the same ballpark is okay, because no one can call up your past employer and be like, hey, so in Q3 of 2024, was that a 7% increase, or was it really 9? You know, like, no one's gonna be able to call and do that, right? So as long as you're in the ballpark and you're doing it through truth and, like, this is what I did and that's the impact I had, you're okay. People really sweat, well, what if I don't have that exact number from 5 years ago? It's okay. Get us in the ballpark.
I think that's fair. I mean, and here the other thing, and I'll say this. This kind of goes into my whole strategies around one-on-ones and growing in a company. But all of this information is one good question away from your manager. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you asking these questions? Hey, boss, we spent 6 months working on this initiative. Did it do well? Did it fail? Did it crash and burn? Are people happy? Are they mad? And your boss is going to say, that's a great question. You know what? We should probably bring this up in the team meeting. He'll get those metrics and he'll say, you know what? Danny asked this question, and I figured it would be great to share with everybody. So that initiative that we worked on for 6 months, we saw a 33% increase in customer conversion rates. We saw a 200% millisecond reduction in ABC. Kudos to the team.
Then write it down. Write it down. Keep a developer log, please. Every week, write down what happened. What did you work on? What did you build? What was the impact? Every single week. It could just be an Apple Note. It could just be whatever, a Google Keep, whatever it is. Just write it down every week. You will forget this stuff, right? But if you can go back and be like, oh, 30% increase here, 2% there, like, and you have that by the time you're ready to go into your next opportunity, you have all those things to look back on. But most of us will have all these wins that when you look at the large scale of your time at that company, you will have forgotten about, or they just won't seem like wins in the moment to you when they really were. Mm-hmm. So please write it down.
Well, I would take it even one step further. Like, getting a new job is cool, but what about thriving in the job that you have? When it's time for that yearly thriving. You see So for me, when it's the time for the yearly review, every one of my coworkers are spending weeks pulling all their pull requests and looking at this and what did it do, and they're testing to get some kind of metrics. For me, it takes 10 minutes, because when I'm in those meetings and I'm in that one-on-one, I throw it in the same Google Doc as my one-on-one. And so then at the end of the year, when it's review time, I'm taking all those key wins that my boss knows that I hit. And they're doing it because for most companies, in order to get you a raise or promotion, it's not that they just feel like it's due. Your manager is advocating on your behalf to your higher up, your skip or whoever. You need to give them the ammunition in order to get that thing to happen. So this needs to not just be something that you're thinking about, oh, it's to get a new job. It's like, no, how do I get past a 2% yearly average increase in raise? Like, I don't just want a cost of living increase. I want to show the impact to where it's like, no, I deserve more because I'm making an impact here. Yep. That's how you're doing it.
And the other piece too is I love that you're putting it in there, the notes and things. Just also be vocal about that throughout the year, right? One of the biggest mistakes I see kind of entry level folks making is not being vocal with their wins, not like sharing publicly, not thanking the team, just kind of hoping people think that you're doing work without actually showing that you are doing work. Most people are in their bubbles. They don't care about you. You need to put it in front of their faces that you solved that problem, that you did that initiative, and you're writing it all down so that your review, but also be visible so that when rough stuff happens at the company, you're not on the chopping block.
Oh yeah, and to be completely honest with you, I feel like one of the best ways to do that, and this maybe we do a whole episode on this, I don't know, but it's in my one-on-ones with my managers generally, I would have a living Google Doc, Microsoft Word, depending on the company. And what I would do is, let's say we have this one-on-one. Number one, get in the mindset of your director, your skip, or your engineering manager, right? Look at their calendar and just see how many conversations they're having in a week, in a month, right? I promise you, no matter how much they love you, it is very hard, if they work at like an average Fortune 500, for them to even be familiar with what it is, the details of what you're doing. Yeah. So your one-on-one is an opportunity. I don't use my one-on-ones as a way to be like, hey, here's a regular status quo update. You get that from my stand-up meeting, right? For me, this one-on-one is, how do I grow within this company? How do I make an impact? How do I expand my career? That's what my one-on-one is for. It's my selfish time, right? So don't come here asking me about what a ticket is doing. It's like, we'll talk about that after this, you know? But let's say we're in there and we identify like, man, you know, if you did this, like this would really help you stand out. You know, this would be great. It's like, cool. I go on my Google Doc, I go to the format, and then I go to insert, and I hit checkbox. And right next to that checkbox, I type in whatever that action item is. And then in 2 weeks, when we come back to our next one-on-one, it's like, hey, before we start, can we go look at the checkboxes? And we'll go to those checkboxes. And then he's like, hey, remember how you told me to work on this microservice because we were trying to increase the speed here? And I did. Can you check that off for me real fast?
Oh, baby.
They are checking it off.
I like that.
And so now, how is it going to be impossible for them not to advocate for you when they've given you 10, 20 extra tasks throughout the year and you're knocking it out of the park? I got a whole thing around this, man, but I don't want to go too off topic here, but that's like a little gem right there. Yeah. I told you the episode of Gems.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's wild. All right, what's the I?
The I, interactive engagement. So interviews are conditioned, and the tone is to be an interrogation, right? They ask a question, you give an answer. They ask a question, you give an answer. It's a fact-finding mission, right? They only have your LinkedIn and resume to go off of. That's it. Yep. So you need to over-deliver on information so they can develop those questions. If you did not do a strategic situation of like over-delivering on your LinkedIn resume, I don't know how you're in there in the first place, but regardless, you got there. This is where you use the beginning to set that tone. So you set the conversational points that you want to hit on. You kind of talk about those things, and they could then say, oh, that's interesting. Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about that? But my goal in an interview, regardless of who it's with, it could be for a new job, it could be with my director, it could be with my engineering manager, it could be with whoever. It could be maybe I'm transferring teams, right? And I got an interview for it. My goal is to turn this into a conversation as quickly as humanly possible, as opposed to question, answer. I didn't even get to talk about this. I need to turn it into a dialogue. So what I would, and I'm not saying use these exact phrasings, but I want you to get the spirit of some of these phrasings to then realize this is how I'd go about it. Yeah. And so let's say they're asking me like, you know, tell me about yourself, la da da. And I lead with, you know, hey, my tech stack is, I don't know, Java Angular. And I built a project here that's focusing on this. And I know that this team that we're talking about right here is really on the e-commerce side. And so knowing the skill set and like this project that I built, do you think this aligns with the metrics of what it is that you're looking for someone for this role? Now they're talking back. Yeah. And now it's conversational back and forth. They're qualifying themselves to me and vice versa. And so if I'm doing this repetitively 10, 15, 20 times in an interview, I'm asking these really thought-provoking, these very intentful questions, because either my hope is by this question, I'm getting a certain response that sets me up for something, or by this question, I'm learning something that I really need to know because I don't know the answer right now. And the earlier you do that, you have more time to make up for it after the fact with really great responses. Like if you give me a response to something now, I don't have to respond to it right away. I can let the answer percolate a little bit while I'm thinking of how I can turn it into something, and then use that as a talking point later on, which reinforces something that they're looking for, right? I would also ask, and this is the biggest thing of the interactive engagement that I just kind of alluded to a little bit. I'm not just listening for their answer, and I'm not just listening for what they're looking for. What I'm really doing is looking between and reading between the lines to listen to what the pain points are. What are the pain points? And if I can address those pain points, I'm going to be a candidate at the top 1% compared to anybody else. And so that's what I'm trying to find out. What is it? And so I'm a big believer in asking like very open-ended but bold kind of questions that set me up for success. Like, one question that I often ask a lot, to be honest with you, and this will vary between people, is like, why is this position open? Did you get extra funding? Did you get extra budget for this division? Did somebody leave? Or is the team growing? Like, why are we having this conversation right now? Like, why am I in this opportunity to speak to you? Find out. And if it's like, oh, somebody quit high and dry, that they didn't even give us no notice. It's like, oh, they didn't give notice? Yeah. You weren't nice enough for them to give notice to?
Your sales is showing. I love it. Like so much of like this is like just good sales technique. Like one of my favorite sales techniques is just once I'm in a meeting, like, all right, why did you show up today? Like, why are we here? Right? It's such a great question because they're like you booked me and we're like, why are we here? Like, why are we talking? Such a good question to start with. So yeah, I think this causes panic for a lot of our listeners. This like having to have this conversation, coming up with these like good open-ended questions and not teetering over into the thing that actually loses people some opportunities, which is the questions that make the person feel uncomfortable. Like there's a dance that's being done here, right? And you don't want to push into the territory that makes them like feel negative about you, because then that, of course, you're not going to be a candidate for the role. So the way you phrase that question, like why are we talking, like why is the role open, is nice and gentle if you're in a conversation. But for some folks, they might be a little too on the nose and be like, so did you all lose funding? Or like something along the lines where it's just like too much. And so it's something you have to get good at. A lot of us are not good at these conversations at first. So it's important that you practice, and it's important that you record yourself. Listen back to, was there harshness in my voice? What is this something that would make the person feel uncomfortable? Is this something that would detract from them having a positive experience with me? But there's that line between, like you're saying, like an engaging question that gets them talking, where you have genuine interest. You also have to have genuine interest throughout this process. Like, I really want to understand the company because I'm going to be giving up 6,000 hours of my life, like you said earlier. And so you got to approach this from a genuine curiosity, a genuine interest, and also just generally interested in the person that you're talking to. If you have that interest and you generally just like care about getting to know that other person on the other side of that phone, it's going to go okay. And you're going to get better at having these conversations. So if this is something that like causes you panic, don't worry, like you can practice it, and it does get better. It does get easier. Whenever you come out of an interview, don't be critical, be analytical. What could I have done a little bit differently so that went a little bit more smoothly? And if you start incorporating that practice, you can start to ask these questions in a way that gets you wonderful returns.
I'll be honest with you. This is me being very vulnerable and transparent. So I'm not really like a salesperson, but I have been learning that I'm interacting with clients so much now that you have to have some level of sales skill to talk to them, right? And I think I shared this on the podcast where I spoke to an executive at this conference, and he was like an executive of like I guess 10,000 plus company. And he was kind of venting and talking because, we talked about how we got into tech, and like it was a whole thing. But he said, Danny, I can pinpoint the exact moment my career started going in the right direction. And I can understand why because he was stuck as an engineering manager for like 10 years. He's like, I couldn't break it no matter what I did. I was just stuck and pigeonholed in that position. And to be honest, it felt like people even were like, oh, that's a little bit too much. And he said, communication was one massive factor, but the second one was sales. If you're an executive at any level and you don't understand the basics of sales, you're actually harming your company and you should vacate your position.
Yeah.
He said, because either A, you're not trained enough to realize you're being sold to and you're taking on things that you shouldn't and you're hurting your company in that position, or B, you don't even realize that you're losing opportunities for your company by not selling in something that they deserve or need because your client needs it. And so you're hurting them on both sides. So you need to vacate that position if you don't understand the basics of sales. Completely changed my perspective on what being a director was, that one conversation. And so for like the last year, I've kind of spent more time doing this. But I'm telling you right now, every single thing that I'm sharing here is something that I was doing at the junior level. And this is why I was able to get 6 offers in tech before I accepted my first offer. Not telling you to do that, but I was very stubborn about what I wanted. And so I had a very clear goal of what I was trying to go for.
I hope people listen to this and are pulling out the gems and applying them, because there's a game being played, and our promise to our listeners is to show you how people are playing it. It's always going to be up to you to play the game, right? All these things you can or cannot do, right? It's up to you. We're just showing you what candidates that are successful are doing. And if you're missing any of these pieces, it's time to consider, would this help your hunt or not, you know?
100%. So yes, I would focus on those pain points and really, really like drive it home. And also, like, if you hear a pain point that you have familiarity with, I'd easily work that into the conversation.
Go to town, yeah.
All right, time for the V. Validation of your alignment between you and the role. Ooh. So this one actually took me a long time to think of like how I would word this. And the way that I'll explain it is by giving an example. Based on what we've been talking about here and all the things that you've shared, it sounds like you need someone who can do X and Y. Like, does that match what it is that you're talking about? Yeah. Perfect. You know, I actually did this in pop.
Yeah.
Or if they said actually X and Y.
This is going to be revolutionary to people, because most people are so passive in their interviews. They just kind of let the interview happen to them, and then they like go home and like finger cross and like pray that like it just like magically works out. But that subtle shift to being proactive in your interview, which means you'll probably be a proactive employee, right, is something that I think anyone who's listening and is not currently doing this in interview process must try it in your next interview. It's such a important thing that separates you from all the other candidates, and it's just that extra little, like you said, that extra little bit of intent, understanding the pain point, clarifying, and then showing that you are already that perfect candidate or the ideal candidate for that role. I love that so much. That's a good one.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, like, it took me a while to realize, and I think I've already said this, like, the biggest lesson that I ever got in my life, and this is what changed everything, was at the gas station. I was working at the gas station, and I'd been there for like 4 years at this point. And someone who had been there maybe, we're talking months, right? Like months, 5 months, 6 months, comes out of the office with the big boss and is being now celebrated as like the new manager. And I just stared at this dude. And I'm like, what? And I was fuming on the inside, literally fuming. I'm like, I worked 4 years. I work 100-hour weeks. Like, I always felt the adage and believed the adage, like, put your head down, put your elbow grease in there. You're going to be recognized for your work. They're going to know that you're a hard worker, and you're going to be rewarded for that. Like, everyone loves a hard worker. And that is when I realized hard workers are often the least paid in the room, as terrible as that is. You know why? Because other people are being paid for their thought, their mind, whatever ideas that they're creating, and they're working hard too, don't get me wrong, but it's nowhere close to what some of these other hard workers are putting in. And it was like a Sunday where the store is slow, especially in the morning. And I asked him point blank, how did this happen? Like, I've been here 4 years, dude. How did this happen? And he's like, I'll be honest with you, Dan. I went in there and I demanded it. I was like, what? He said, I demanded it. I went in there and I said, hey, I need this and I need this. Otherwise, I'm going somewhere else or I'm leaving this place. And they were like, you know what? It's yours. No. And I sat there stunned and I walked into the cooler and I just started stocking drinks. And he came and checked on me. He's like, you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good, man. Like, this makes a lot of sense. And he walked away. And in that moment, I realized how many opportunities in life have I completely missed simply because I didn't say, I think I could do that.
Yeah.
Raising my hand for those listening to this. It's like, I think I could do that. I think I have the skills to do that. Can I give this a go? Just that alone, how much money have I lost out on life? How many promotions? How many job opportunities? How many relationships? How many friendships? Just because I didn't say something. Yeah. So now when it comes to the interview, it's like, oh, am I going to add this to the list of things that I just missed out on life because I didn't tell somebody I could do something or I advocate for myself? And so if you're listening to this and you feel like, man, I don't know if I can ask this thing, you're right. Maybe you can't. But are you going to also be the one that was like, hey, I can't miss out on another job opportunity? I'm going to add this to the laundry list of places that I missed out on simply because I didn't tell them I could do something, or I didn't ask a clarifying question, or I didn't ask something in a way that set me up in the right way. Yeah. Like, it's your story. My life doesn't change if you get a job. Nobody cuts Danny a check when it's like, hey, Danny, your advice got me a job. Here's $100. No one's ever done that.
Yeah.
Nothing changes for me. I'm literally doing this and sharing this in a way that it can help as many people as humanly possible, because my ultimate hope is whenever I expire, people are still able to kind of get opportunities based on this. And that's it. Like, tech changed my life, but it isn't really just tech in general. It's having a skill that was marketable in the marketplace that I could advocate for myself for. Yeah. And so I don't care if you're doing HVAC, but if you do it like this and you interview like this, you're going to work at the top companies around. I don't care if you're a painter. Well, you go to the top construction companies around, you advocated for like this, you're getting the best possibilities and promotions and income levels to where maybe you're no longer the painter no more, but you're the one over all the painters. Like, this goes up to high levels. So if you want to be a lawyer, this works. You want to be an accountant, this works. You want to be a home cleaner, this works. So people want to know that they're getting a 9 or 10 level candidate versus a 4 or 5 or a 6. And this is the way that you elevate to that.
And if folks do want to send us money, we'll keep our Bitcoin wallet addresses down below in the show notes.
I know that's right.
All right, bring it home. We got to get to the
bring
E
it home.
Here. Yeah.
We're bringing the E. And that is the twofer: elevating impact and extending the dialogue. So what does this mean? We're driving the conversation towards bigger picture outcomes. We want to keep momentum going even post-interview. And so there's several things. Like, number one, like, if I'm explaining something using star, car, or whatever, it's like, I'll say the thing and then I'll add in an anecdote like, well, even beyond feature X, like, my goal was to drive 10% more user retention. I know this wasn't the explicit goal on the Jira ticket and the initiative and the feature, but I wanted that. Like, I want to feel like I'm part of something. I feel like I am a part of this company and I want to see it grow. And we are noticing that we have an abandoned cart rate here. Why are we having that abandoned cart rate? Or we see an attrition rate here. Why do we have this attrition rate? I want to see customers feel like they got the full picture. They got all the support that they need. And so by doing why, I was able to see that 10% increase. Now you've added a new layer that really brought it home. Everything goes into the framing and packaging of whatever it is that you're talking about. So it's not just the technical thing, because so many people would love to put on their resume or even talk about an interview. I worked on the homepage. I worked on the newsletter thing. Well, what did it do?
What did it do? Yeah.
Think big picture. Big picture is where you start going into the realm of junior to senior, senior to architect. Like, that whole pathway exists for people that think big picture. And so that's part one of that. Part two is, I can almost guarantee the second question that's asked in every single interview, and I don't mean second in order, but earlier I said one question is guaranteed to be asked in every interview. This is the second one. And that's, do you have any questions for me?
Nope, I'm going to go home. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
How many people say that, though?
All the time.
Now, my answer, Leon, may shock you, but it's actually very similar to what you just said.
Interesting. Okay.
My answer is, if you follow Thrive, my answer when that's usually asked is, when I walked in here, I had so many, but we've had such a great conversation going back and forth that I feel like you've answered all of them. You've answered every question that I've brought in so far, because I've asked maybe 15, 20 questions because I am so interested, and you really gave me a lot to think about. And I guess the only real question that I have to ask you is, what can I do on my side right now to make sure that the ball keeps moving in the right direction?
And then Danny did a 360 spin and moonwalked out the room. Oh my gosh. Smooth.
But that's literally, that's my goal. My goal is, by the time that they ask that, is that there should be nothing left to ask.
Yeah.
But I can't remind them that I haven't asked anything.
Yep.
So I need to reinforce the idea that I've actually asked you like 15 or 20 questions in this thing.
Yeah, because you got to realize recruiters are just in robot mode a lot of times, right? Or if anyone that's interviewing, just they're tired, right? And so they expect you to ask questions. If you don't have a question at the end, they might accidentally check that box that's like in their mental mind. It's like, oh, they didn't ask questions. They don't care about this opportunity. But that subtle framing of like, actually, we've had such phenomenal time together. Like, and it's also like you leave. So in school, we had something called first, middle, last. So in school, we had a lot of just like small classrooms that were like 8 to 10 people, and you're just discussing stuff. Well, a lot of times I didn't do the reading. And so the way you got through those hard discussions would be the first person to talk, first opinion, something peppered in the middle, and then you bookend it. You made people feel whatever you wanted them to feel at the end, and then people felt like you just contributed the whole conversation. And so you're really bookending this in a really nice way, where you're leaving them with this like very clear mental model of someone that asked good engaging questions, that you had a good conversation, and then how can you like envision this conversation continuing or the ball going forward? Like, it just leaves them with that opinion, and you can often get over anything that happened if you could just bookend it, right? And so it's like a perfect bookend to where even if they were on the fence, you might sign the deal of you getting voted to the next round just with that, like that ending portion, which I think is really nice.
So what you're saying, Leon, is if we were in high school and we were doing a 4-person group project, you were the one slacking that we were talking trash about in the group chat, and then you came in to bookend something at the end?
But you wouldn't know it.
Oh, I hate you, but I love you. Teacher don't know.
Yeah. Don't care about you. I care about the teacher things.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something there, right? Like, and so my worry when people listen to our advice is they're not as smooth as Danny is. It takes a level of practice to be able to pull something off like that in an interview. But if you can get there, the world is yours. And if you know that you're not there yet, having a question or two prepared that you thought of ahead of time is okay. It's okay. People have that. But you want to use that as a bridge to eventually getting to what Danny just mentioned, right? That where the best interviews are where you walk away, you felt like you had a wonderful conversation. You feel like you would continue to talk to this person outside the context of the job opportunity. You're excited to do that. Like those are good interviews. And so if you can eventually we give so many little things that you have to tweak now. Don't expect to snap your fingers and that to happen, but start incorporating them, start transitioning them. Try doing the bookend that Danny just gave, and maybe the first time you try it doesn't go as smoothly, but you'll do it better the next time. And as you can start to incorporate more and more of these tools, you'll start to see more and more interviews go your way.
And here's the thing, right? Like, I've bombed so many interviews, and you know what's one thing that I realized? If I'm going to bomb this interview and I realize it's going bad, it's time for me to bomb this with style. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to experiment. Get rid of all that nervous energy. Like, what happens if I say this? Well, you said it. The world didn't crash. You realize you're still here. So let's now fix it to where the next time you say it, it actually lands the way that you wanted.
Yep.
That's the only way that you're going to get better at this. And I know for a lot of juniors listening, by the way, mind you, like, yes, I'll always acknowledge the market right now, it's tougher than it was in the past. But I'm telling you right now, when I was trying to get my first job in tech and everybody was talking, we were all saying the same thing, like, it's so hard to get a job. It's impossible. Like, what do we do? Nobody's hiring juniors.
Yeah.
I never really saw ads for junior developers. It was always like mid and above. And so it's like, I'm telling you right now, it's always been hard. Right now, it's definitely very competitive. But prime example, I had a one-on-one call with somebody in like March, I think it was. And within that call, we realized she was severely underpaid. She knew her stuff. Like, she was really, really technical, knew her stuff, and was just being severely underpaid. We had one 30-minute call, one 30-minute call. In that 30-minute call, what happened? 45 days later, she was in interviews. 30 days after that, she sent me a message saying, Danny, I just finished my first week.
Wow. There we go.
I'm telling you, like, there's a strategy to this, and you just need to really, really be active and don't just move for the sake of movement, because it's very easy. And I get caught up in this sometimes where it's like, man, I'm just moving nonstop, and then I'll audit myself. I'm very big on auditing my actions.
Yep.
I audit my actions throughout the day, but really, like, every week I'm even doing a retro, like, did I get the most out of this? And if I start realizing, like, oh, wow, I've been moving nonstop to where I was losing sleep and I didn't get nothing done. That's a bad week to me. That's a bad day. And so it's like, if you're auditing it, where's your intent? You can't just be like, I got to do it because it's a checklist item. Like, what does the item do? What does it serve? Like, this is why when it comes to portfolio sites, I feel like people miss the mark in a lot of cases because they don't know what they're doing with it. Or when it comes to the resume, they just look at it like, I have to have a resume. But they're not thinking about, what are they going to ask? What do I want them to know about me? And so, like, or how do I break the F format? How do I break them from skimming to reading? Like, they don't ever think about these things. It's just going through the motions. And I'm telling you, there's strategies to all of this. And the more strategic you are, the higher rate you're going to have to effort to reward. And that's what I constantly think about. If I'm putting in XYZ number of effort, what is ABC rewards in correlation to this? And does it match, balance, or outweigh each other in one way, shape, or form? And if it is a negative, I need to adjust something.
Well, I hope everyone is able to take the things we talked about today and start incorporating them into the practice, right?
Yep.
As kind of Damien's mentioned, it's not perfect. You just got to have that reflection. I always would say analytical, not critical. Carry that through each interview, and you'll get to where you want to go. It's just, we see so many folks that just go into the interview process like an accident, and you can't do that anymore. If you want to be competitive in this market, you got to bring that level of attention. You have to apply the patent pending Thrive method to your interview process, and you'll come out the other side.
Yeah, and I'll say one last thing. None of this is said with the intent of this being like, oh, this is how you game the interview. No. This is actually, how do I deliver the information that's accurate about me in a way that they can understand and make a really fruitful determination off of? Yes. And by doing these things, you're setting yourself up for that. So none of this is like a scam, a game, oh, I cut this corner. No. You're giving them the right information the way that they need it to make that determination. Why wouldn't you do that? And so if a future employer is listening to this, I'm not saying here that I'm gaming this, but I am saying that if we were to interview together, you would definitely have enough information to determine whether I was a great fit for that role or not. And that's my ultimate goal. And if you could see me adding a value to your company or not, that's my ultimate goal. And that should be your goal too if you're going for a role. So hopefully this helps you with that. So when in doubt, thrive it out. And I just literally came up with that. That's a catchphrase. That's going on a t-shirt or something.
It's going to be on our first merch. Yeah, first
there you
merch
go.
drop.
Hey, and then we'll be like, hey, don't forget to drive your car. Drive.
It's just on the sleeve. It's just going to be Thrive, car, prep. Like
then when you interview, just like quickly
you just
look,
down the sleeve. Yeah. That's actually a good idea.
We're being silly, y'all. But hopefully you got a ton of value out of this. We should probably do question of the day. Let's hit that question. So it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show, including mine, the Ask Danny and Leon a Question. Today's question is actually not via email or the Slidos. It's from YouTube comments. And this one, this person's asked many different questions in the past, and we've answered some, but this one he's asked a couple times in particular. And so I don't know if we're going to give him the answer he wants, but it's definitely the answer he needs. I have a question about the job market. You are saying that to get a job, search the local market. But what if someone is targeting global remote markets? I want to get a job in another country. Then how to decide on the path and technology? What are the ways? Please describe that. I feel like we've talked about this before, but I feel like we can kind of do some justice to this.
Yeah,
Leon, you want to go with this one first, or you want me?
Yeah, so I think you should always try local first. And it should always be part of your process, because you're going to get a tighter feedback loop, because it'll be easier to get opportunities. So even if you have a very small local market, I don't think you should write it off. I think you should still try, because any interviews are good interviews and you can use them for practice. Now, if you're going for global remote, good luck. It is absurdly competitive, and you have to deliver an immense amount of value when you're competing with the rest of the known world. And so what are you doing to stand out as a candidate so that you're in the running for these opportunities? The things I have seen that have been helpful for folks are an obsession with networking with these companies, where they find the companies that hire global, also hire remote, but also hire globally, because that's a whole other story too. Find individuals that are working there, because these are often smaller, tighter knit teams, and they don't hire folks they don't know. And so you have to build your network, work your way into meeting these individuals, which is a lot of work. And then if you're talking about like learning right now, kind of doesn't matter at first. Do full stack JavaScript, learn the basics of coding, programming, and then start building. And from there, you'll need to learn other things. Like that's where you start. But if you know you're going for a global remote position, you must network your way in, and you must really have a deep, deep, deep focus on why am I the best candidate out of the entire world? And if you can't answer that question and you can't put it on a silver platter for them, it'll be very, very hard for you to get a global remote job.
You said a big portion of what my thoughts are even around on this. And I know we've discussed this before, but for me, when you're going global remote, I'll never say something's impossible. Everything is possible. Is it practical? Is it likely? Especially like given the way that you're asking this question, my instinct is you're probably at the junior level trying to get your first job. The incentive to hire globally remote junior is very, very low, right? Because what happens when someone hires a junior dev? What is the first thing a company says? We know that for about 6 months, this person isn't going to contribute anything. So we're losing money for 6 months to train them to get to a point where our hope is that they're producing, right? And then given this candidate, we can tell after 6 months, they're given the right structure, framework, support, all that good stuff, that by the end of the first year, they're going to make up for the 6 months that we lost, and we'll break even on them. And then the following years, like now they're a developer at a good level. And then the ultimate hope is, to be completely honest, that they keep you for a long period of time to where now as your value exceeds what you're producing, they've got it in at a cheaper rate because they got you at a low level, right? If you're globally remote, so let's use examples of I'm in America, you're in India or Africa, wherever, it doesn't really matter. But that's not really attractive for me. Like to skill you up and then you could just run anywhere, especially when you have like no ties even to the country. But now to hire globally remote, I have to jump through the legal loopholes. I have to set up a whole thing. I have to get approval from government. Like there's a whole process involved here, all kinds of red tape. Why would I want to do that at the junior level? That incentive increases dramatically as we go up in level to the senior level, architect level, mid-level, etc. It becomes more attractive. But at a junior that doesn't really know a lot and I'm going to have to train them, even after the pandemic, so many companies out there lack great infrastructure around remote and remote work. It still exists to this day. It's not appealing. So you have to really do something to truly stand out. So I say all this not to dissuade you, but it's to be very real with you and for you to understand what's happening then. So with Leon's situation of the networking, that's a big factor. But also the thing that you'd have to do is targeted approach. Like you'd have to really section off areas at a time to like find out everything about them, be able to kind of stand out. But then you have to also be thinking, it's not only just competing with the globe, but there are devs in their area that know people in that company that could be a referral in. How am I beating them to the punch? What am I doing in that aspect to stand out? Now, if you saw an earlier episode that we've done, Soham was able to do that. Now, I'm not saying you need to be a Soham because that's crazy. But what I would say is thinking about his approach. How was he able to do it? He targeted a specific city. He targeted specific companies, right? He went in a very targeted approach. So that's going to be the highest rate of return that you have, a very laser-focused, targeted approach onto not just the company, but even like the industry. Like there'd be a lot that you'd have to do, and you'd have to be able to prove that you are the person that they need to talk to for that. Hopefully that helps. It's not going to be easy. It's hard. Getting hired is hard in general, but going against the entire globe, it's no walk in the park. Is it impossible? No. Is there better areas where you can focus your time? Absolutely. And the more experience you have, a lot of these paths become a little bit easier, but it all comes back to how are you going to thrive once you're in that conversation?
Oh, I see what you did there.
It's been real. It's been fun. And we will see you on the next one.
Peace
Bye,
out.
everybody.